it's release day today for you guys, so it must be quite exciting. It must have been a long process as well because
Yeah.
is it 6 months since the premiere in South by Southwest? I think one of my other guys reviewed it for us. Kat,
Yeah.
she interviewed you as well, and it was 6 months ago,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. March. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so, so
It's
how did it
nice.
feel?
Yeah, good. Yeah, but because we've done so many, well, quite a few festivals, whenever the sort of release day comes, you've done so much press and Q&As and everything else. So it's not exactly an anticlimax because you're excited for it, but you're not as nervous as you would be probably if you haven't done that 6 months of festivals. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's quite nice. It's a nice feeling, but you just hope the right people get to see it, the good reviews and bums on seats. It's very difficult. I mean, I think there's about 15 films released today.
I
It's
know.
crazy.
I saw that. It's a big release week for whatever reason, but yeah,
It's crazy. So I'm really grateful that we got into so many good cinemas, to be honest, because
yeah,
it's tough. And there's no Polly and Mikkel. We haven't got Jennifer Lawrence, who's also in a film that comes out today. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's tough when you're competing with. Obviously, they're all different films, but yeah, you just hope that
No, it might work well for us.
it might
Release
work
a
well.
good bunch of other things. If they can't get into that, they'll just pick the next one.
Yeah, I think it's a very different film. I've seen a few of the other ones that are opening today, and the Jennifer Lawrence one as well. And this one's very different. So, hopefully it will find a little niche in amongst all those big releases. But so how long have you been sort of developing this, Gerard? Since 'cause it's been 6 years since Muscle.
Yeah, so this actually was relatively quick. So I've got six things in development, a couple of TV shows, 4 films, actively moving forward. They just don't move at the pace that you'd like them to. I'd like to be just Woody Allen going from one, but that's tricky. Um, this though, Odyssey, was really quick, to be honest. I mean, from having the initial idea to it being at South by Southwest was just over a year,
Okay.
which was incredibly quick. So I had an idea, seed of an idea. I wanted to work with Austin, my co-writer on it. I wanted a co-writer on this. And that was pretty quick. We had a treatment, and then we basically got it. The first person I showed it to, John Jenks, the producer, just said, "Oh, I didn't even show it to him. I just chatted to him about, the slate and everything else. It wasn't even a pitch." And I just said, "I've got this thing about an estate," and he's like, I think that's perfect for us." And then it was really quick. We just made it, and it was great because it wasn't one that required a hell of a lot of money. And it was my sort of the way I shoot on the streets of London and just quite guerrilla style. And
Cool. And then you say you wanted a co-writer on this, and that is Austin Collins. It's his first feature, if I'm correct in thinking that. So what was the reasons for that, and how did that work? Because he's not London based either,
well,
is he? He's Manchester, is
yeah,
that
so
right?
no, it's Manchester. Yeah, so basically, Polly is my partner. So I don't know if you know yet.
I didn't know.
So with Polly had a little bit in Muscle, and then I wanted to put a front and center in this, but I didn't want to be. I needed someone to bounce off of. Just tricky for me being the sole writer of it. So I needed someone to say, "What about this? What about this?" So it was like a soundboard. And Austin, I'd met. He's one of the co-owners or co-creators of the White Hotel, which is a very famous or infamous nightclub in Manchester. And they had a screening of Muscle about 3 or 4 years ago, which was part of a 54-hour rave. And in the middle of that, they showed Muscle, and I did a Q&A with Austin,
Wow.
which was incredible. It's amazing. And we struck up a very quick friendship because we were very in tune with a lot of our tastes. And he'd already written a script that he sent me to look at, which I really liked. And so we started sending each other bits of ideas. So that then moved on to when I had this idea of Polly and the estate agent. I said, "Do you fancy working on a film with me?" And he's like, "I'd love to." So it was really easy as well. It's nice. You've got to really have the same taste, not be too precious with each other's words, and lots of back and forth, sending things back and forth, which does save time, because you can be working on other stuff while they're working on it, and you're bouncing off. I still do like writing on my own. It's not something that it's something that I will continue to do, but it's also nice to have co-writers as well. I like mixing it up.
Cool. And Polly, obviously, Tash is a very strong character. She must have been a delight to sort of get into the shoes of. I think from the very moment I saw her on screen, I I have friends who are estate. I'm probably trying to be very diplomatic here. I've got friends who are estate agents, and I watch all these terrible estate agents Netflix shows, and I think you embody every part of what an estate agent is to me, and then some. So talk about the sort of creation of her and how you approached her, and how early on did you get on board? Because obviously, being partners, I presume you live together. So kind of. How did you create her in this sort of world where Gerard's writing it with Austin?
Well, I didn't have anything to do with the writing. I didn't have anything to do with the creation of the script. But what my part, the background for it is that I was a lettings agent, not a sales, but a lettings agent in my local high street. The first day almost that I got the keys to my flat in Islington, I walked down the high street looking for jobs. And my friend and her husband stumbled out of a pub and said, she said, "I work over there. There's a job there probably for the taking." And I went, I'll go. Right. And so I went straight into this job. And in front of house there was a guy with sort of anger management issues who couldn't be less interested in the place. There was an aging alcoholic boss who was always AWOL. It was quite turbulently traumatic place, as well as being a failing business. He was hardly there, and pretty much I was left to my own devices. I was thrown in at the deep end, drawing up contracts, taking people out. We didn't have one of the fancy cars. It was a sort of failing business. I was showing people places, drawing up contracts, break contracts, break clauses. I mean, dealing with rents that didn't always add up. So therefore, fielding tenants and landlords alike. You know, I would have driven people crazy because I didn't have any answers for them sometimes, but I didn't have the ruthless edge because I was waiting for my agent to ring and to get out of there. But I was there on and off, doing the occasional acting job, sort of for 3 years on and off, very much. I'd have 6 months off and come back. So I got a taste of the business. And then having told Gerard those stories a bit, sort of a loose inspiration of an estate agent story might have come from there a little. You like the tribal element, so that was, that was another tribe you wanted to investigate, but that's where my side of it came from. And then to develop her, I came to the rehearsal process, really nervous. I'd not led in a film before at all. I've done leads in theatre where you get to play character from beginning to end, and that was my basis of training, and that's where I had the best roles. But it was a dream to do it on film. But when I came, I was intimidated and I was nervous in rehearsals. And we had a very cozy time at the beginning of rehearsals where we all got to know each other well, and we discussed, first of all, the office people were in there, and we discussed the hierarchy of the office and how we knew each other and our backgrounds and everything. And it was all cozy and nice and everyone was lovely. And then Gerard suddenly went, "Yeah, right, let's get it on its feet, and you guys are in the office. Polly, go out the door and you have to enter." And I was just like, "Oh, fuck. Sorry, can I swear?" I was just like, and then the blood drained from me and I was scared to death. And I went out of the room and I thought, I can keep on walking or I can go in, and face the music. And I did go in and I failed completely. And I failed in that scene, the initial scene, because I was listening to people. I was doing what I thought was right. I was laughing with them. I was trying to match their nonchalant, brilliant improvisational comedy. There was Charlie Palmer Rothwell and Kelly Shirley, who are great improvisers. And, I was laughing at their jokes. And it was just, I was lost. It wasn't a character at all. I was thinking, what the hell am I doing? And so thankfully I had that time, because this epiphany occurred where I realized I didn't have to listen to them and I didn't have to laugh with them. And the whole point of Natasha is that she just uses people and then gets rid of them. And if they're not useful to her, she disposes of them. And it was very emboldening to sort of realize that, and to be entirely different from how I am. I want to be a people pleaser and an apologizer a bit and a smiler. And Gerard kept saying to me during certain scenes that we were rehearsing, stop smiling. Don't speak. You don't need to talk to her. Let her run out of breath. And, these things I had on my script, no apologizing, no smiling. And it just helped. And as soon as she was out there then, first few days of feeling uncomfortable and finding my feet, and then suddenly realizing I'd made these choices and she was out there and I could run with it, then you can feel free to do anything, because if they're following you, you've got no escape from me anyway. And you can do anything then, so long as you've made the choices about who you are early on and who people are to you. Then it's just a lovely feeling, and an opportunity hardly any actors get the chance to just keep on running with the story. So lovely.
And it has this sort of free flowing dialogue and stuff all the way through. I think Muscle had that a lot as well. And you've obviously it felt very natural, and was that all part of that rehearsal process to get all of that out? And obviously with that as a sort of a back end, you've obviously got Tom Davis, a comedian, well, obviously a great actor as well, but they're naturally very, very quick. So that must have been very difficult to keep up with as well, because that seems very, very funny, but not
that day. I never laughed so much. It was such a funny day. That was only the second day of work, wasn't it? Second day on the job, I mean. Can't really call that day, that afternoon work. But we did 6 takes that day, I think, and all of them were about 40 minutes long. And Tom was just Korshan, the DOP, the brilliant DOP, he was turning the camera on all of us individually. Jasmine was pretty good, actually. She was very cool, but he couldn't get a straight face everywhere he turned. Jasmine probably held it together better than most of us. But we were, there were lengthy
Tom's whole
takes of that.
MO is just to try and make everyone laugh. It was really hard to edit because there was so much in there. Every single flaw, every bit of, he was picking holes in everything, and just these guys were just creasing up. He just
was so funny.
Come up with stuff about the floorboards, about the fireplace, about the decking outside, everything. He was just, his whole purpose was to get everyone corpsing. Which I love, because it comes across.
Very natural.
But it got to a point, we were only on the first floor, and I had shouting in the background, go upstairs, just go upstairs. It's like,
but the funny thing was, in some of those long takes, I happened to mention a maintenance guy called Ross. And I mentioned him once, and Ross became a feature of this scene. And he would just, this character that was never really existed, kept coming up and making us laugh too much. And I said to Tom at one point, listen, I'll leave Ross out of it this time, because this is just making us go. And he brilliantly just went, if you don't mention him, I will, because this is gold. And that's what's lovely about him, because he needed to just keep confronting and keep doing it. So it was a shorter scene than I expected in the end. But I don't know if you got much out of the footage.
It's one of my favorite scenes. And then you've got that kind of obviously another great character in this is the Viking, and Mikhail's performance is, how does that sort of compare? Because he's very calm, cold, collected, not frantic, and he's very, very, I mean, again, one of my favorite scenes is in the Mitre, where you finally meet up with him. So a couple of questions in terms of that. How was that character created? How much of it was on the page? How much it was Mikhail? And how was that to act in, Polly, in terms of comparison to what you just described with Tom?
I'll go first. Loosely based on an old friend of the family, an old friend of my mum and dad's, who was sort of, you would say, a figure in the underworld, and lived very much off grid. Would do all his business in telephone boxes, but very well read, softly spoken, not at all of the sort of person you'd expect to be from that world in a way, but didn't like any stayed completely off grid and out of any kind of newspapers or anything like that. But was pretty much a hardened criminal his whole life. So that was a interesting inspiration for the Viking. And the casting directors, Ollie and Katie, they said, "Have you thought going European?" And because a lot of the influences of the film were quite European, I was looking at a lot of Roman Polanski and everything else. I absolutely loved the idea, and also I love Mikkel, and they just worked with him, I think, on King Arthur or something. And I'd remembered him from In a Better World, and just was so excited by the prospect. And luckily, he loved the script.
Well, my experience with him as well is he wasn't part of the rehearsal process at the beginning. So we'd had most of the time with all the other actors. And then he came in. I thought we'd started filming by the time I met him, but it was early days. But he was a presence that hadn't arrived anywhere near set yet. And I remember we met him at Pineapple Studios, and he was a bit late, and I built myself into a bit of nerves, waiting for this guy, who had a lovely time with Gerard, wooing him in Sweden, and they'd clicked and bonded, but he didn't know who the hell I was. I was just the director's girlfriend, and could have been, he had to come and do a scene with me. And anyway, he strode in. He was this big, gorgeous, strong-looking, kind of serious-looking guy, but. We read the script quite quietly, understated. I think we clicked quite quickly, talked around a little, then went out for dinner. We bonded by the end of the evening.
Excellent.
He was lovely. He was lovely, good fun to work with.
And talking of fun, I think those climactic scenes are probably one of the most brutal I've seen since probably. Muscle. I'm trying to think of other stuff I've seen like that in terms of something that really is a defining ending to a film. How was it to film Polly, and how was it to direct Gerard? It reminded me of a few different sort of influences. Where did you get them from in terms of that sequence, both in writing and obviously executing, if that's the right word?
Well, so I had my worries about holding a gun and being this truly badass bitch by the end, because I'm this middle-class girl from Surrey, and I didn't know whether it would come off. But it was great because we did a lot of this film chronologically. I was quite exhausted, but in a good way, in a sort of adrenaline pumped. I'd lost a bit of weight. That made me feel stronger, actually. It suits me, and it makes me feel I was energized by it. And with this filming, there was no time for me to post-mortem scenes look back at anything, because it was so quick and it was constant, and there were night shoots way up until the end of the night, and then I'd like to wake up. Generally, I liked waking up, this routine near 4 o'clock in the morning, to just feel right in my body and my voice, and have a coffee. And we really didn't see each other much during filming. We were in totally different routines. And so when I got to filming that, I just felt in the right place mentally to just all I felt there was I wasn't playing holding a gun. I just knew I had a mission to complete, and that was essential to just the pace and the energy of that.
And film and doing that sequence, was it sort of storyboarded? Did you kind of like plan it meticulously, or did you just go in like with that wide angle lens and just sort of go for it?
No, all storyboarded. I don't normally do storyboards because of the way I film. I'd rather get to the location and work on a shot list then. But this needed storyboard because there was so many elements to it, and it was it's really I really wanted to go through a lot of planning. It's sort of like the opposite to how I normally film, but I wanted it to really be planned out and to try and take a lot of time and use a lot of prosthetics and go kind of very old school with it, not I've just got a bit fed up by seeing a lot of those climaxes or fights in films, and not really, they're all quite samey. So I wanted to do something, and I think obviously Taxi Driver has always been a massive influence, and you can see the through line in pretty much everything I do. You can see there's elements of Taxi Driver from Tony right up until Odyssey. So always that Taxi Driver climax to me was such an amazing end to the film, such a beautiful, beautiful controlled violence. So I wanted to, in a way, do something that was not a copy of that, but something in the spirit of that film. A lot of people probably think, but she gets away with it and she wins, and she's such a dislikable character. But I like that.
I did. I felt I almost rooted for her towards the end. Almost.
Almost.
Yeah, I think so. I think you do, and it's various people see different things. Some people find she's quite a sad figure. Some people find her really repulsive and hard to like, but other people find her quite a sad, lonely, and feel sorry for her in a way.
Yeah.
I certainly had to find relatable things to her to play her.
And
I do.
I think for me it was the earpiece. As soon as I saw that earpiece, I just wanted to rip it out of her head and just like, don't need that. Come on.
That's really good.
Yeah. So one last question, because I know you've got another call, but going back to the sort of the film festival things, I think I know what the answer is to this. I was talking to a couple of producers the other day, and they were taking their film to Tallinn next week, and that's what I watched earlier on this week. I was very excited about it.
Tallinn.
Sorry, I will. I'll take your details. I'll send you a few pics.
I'm joking.
Now, so how important is the film festival circuit? Because all of your films, I was looking back through your previous films, and you've premiered every single one in competition at some, Edinburgh, obviously South by Southwest with this one, and Tallinn. How important is it, Gerard?
I mean, I've said it before, it's the lifeblood. On Muscle, we played Tallinn, but that was just before lockdown. So a lot of them got cancelled. A lot of the festivals, every festival was shutting down as the world was shutting down. So it felt like we did like 3 festivals, but it felt like really weird to then release a film without doing that 6 months of festivals. Sorry?
More than 3 we did.
No, it was only 3. There was London, Tallinn, and
sorry, I thought you meant this time.
No,
sorry,
I'm saying
yeah,
we opened at London, but it just felt not the same, and I really missed, and also there's those relationships you build, like Sidges, for example. 3 of my films played there, and going back and seeing those guys, and just different audience, different nationalities, different audiences. I love it. I love the festival run, and it's a time to sort of enjoy the film. Really, it's enjoyable because it's such hard work. It's enjoyable making a film. Like, it is absolutely the most enjoyable thing in the world. But it takes months and months. I wouldn't say it's hard work. It's enjoyable work, but it just takes such a long process. Spending months and months. So then to not have it shown at cinemas just is such an alien concept, to just release it either on a streamer or just to nude. It seems like you've spent months in, for instance, we were at Pinewood and we were in the Pressburger sound suite, fine tuning, especially the end sequence, the sounds and the noises in that took such a long time. And then to not see it in a proper cinema with proper sound, or someone watching it on a phone.
Yeah.
I mean, at least people are watching stuff, but it's a shame when it's not exhibited in that way. So yeah, in answer to your question, festivals are the lifeblood, I think, and cinemas.
I was just going to say, I've not seen this. I've seen this film twice, both at home on a link. I think it's very much a film to be seen in cinemas. I'm glad it's playing in so many venues, because it definitely deserves it, even if it is for that opening shot, which I didn't expect even the second time I saw it, after having some dental work done. So thank you very much for that. And I wish you all the best with it. And I can't wait to see what you both do next.
Well, hopefully it won't be 6 years before we're having this call again.
No, and hopefully we can do it in person next time. That would be even better.
Without unstable.
But best of luck with it all, and nice to see you again. All right, all the best,
Cheers, mate.